Take it away, Shane.
Good morning, everybody. I apologize. My camera, for some reason, is not working with the Google Meets here, but we're going to move forward. Just appreciate your time, and Matt, allow me the opportunity to connect with you. We discussed today about doing some budgeting and scoping discussions. I think along with that, we can do some estimating discussion as well. I'm with headquarters. I'm the regional construction specialist right now for the Midwest, the Rockies, and the Western regions. We do have Steve Rogers, who unfortunately is out today. He was going to originally join us, but he'll be taking over the Midwest region. And, my background is restoration and construction. I'm a graduate from Cal Poly San Luis Obispo with a major in city and regional planning and a minor in real property development. I started in construction when I was in college and really technically in high school when I was doing drafting, and I've just kind of worked my way up through the ranks. I worked for our competitor for Blue Sky. I worked for Harborough, which is a Western based restoration contractor. And I've been specifically in restoration for over 20 years. My skill set goes for me anywhere from operations to sales and marketing. I really love selling jobs, though, and estimating jobs. And that was one of the reasons that I talked to Matt about doing this today and trying to just maybe bring some clarity or ask some questions and some consistency to the group. I know that Matt's got a big weight here to carry on his back with regards to overseeing multiple regions. So really just trying to assist him and being able to create a little bit broader span for him as well. So as far as volume wise, I used to, current day value, probably about between $4 to $6 million a year. I would sell and manage and operate from a PM perspective. And with superintendents working underneath me doing the day-to-day, I've done anything from single family to multifamily, high-end custom homes, high-rise, mid-rise, industrial, strip malls, surgical centers, hospitals, and so forth. So I've been really fortunate to perform a lot of various different types of jobs. I used to also be based out of Colorado as well, but currently based here in Central Oregon for the time being. So if you can help me out as well and just introduce yourselves briefly, just so I can get your name, your background, how long you've been estimating or selling for, and what location you're out of. And we'll start with, is it Margarita?
Hi, nice to meet you. My name is Margarita, and I provide support to all the territories in the mid to recon transition. So yes, I'm a little bit new on these processes. I'm more involved with the transition, but I'm here to learn.
Beautiful. Appreciate you being here. And Ross, how about you?
Yeah, so I am the project manager for the Denver location. Started off in mitigation for about 2.5 years, and then have been doing the reconstruction side since early January. So still learning a lot, but definitely familiar with the estimating and the aspect of it.
Any construction in your background?
No, I actually started off in aviation.
Okay, beautiful. And did you go by Chris or Christopher?
There's a couple Christophers. If you're talking to me, Mike, I go by Bronze usually.
Okay. Oh, yeah, there's 6 others here.
Okay. I'm out of Grand Junction, Colorado. New to Servpro, not new to construction. I've done some commercial and quite a bit of residential. I actually come from an aquarium background, doing custom aquariums for large public display.
Oh, cool. Wonderful. All right. Well, appreciate you being here. And then I think it showed next on here, hopefully I'm not butchering your name, but is it Galen Clark?
That's correct. So I'm up in the Summit and Eagle County areas, the High Rockies, and I've been up here doing the reconstruction portion of this business for the last 6 years.
Okay. Wonderful. Appreciate you being here. And then I showed next is Alan Hudson.
Hey, sorry about that. Yeah, I kind of rolled into a commercial large loss division. My background's very similar to yours. I've been in it for 40 years. Done some Department of Defense work, a couple buildings for the Marines, and worked down in the islands for 3.5 years.
Okay.
Developing the building.
Wonderful. Appreciate you being here. And then I show, is it Michael Potter?
Yeah, I'm the superintendent down in the Durango, Colorado area. I been in construction since out of high school. Worked for a general contractor slash, I guess, developer for a long time, 15, 20 years. And then I ran my family's roofing business for some years.
Okay, great.
Then I came here, so.
Well, I love Durango.
Nice.
I grew up, my family's got, my brother-in-law has property in Uray, and we used to go over to Durango, Silverton, and so forth. So beautiful area of the country.
Oh, definitely.
So, and then I've got 6 others here. Let's see, I'm trying to figure out the names of who we don't have here. So Eric Hernandez.
Yeah, so my name's Eric Hernandez. PDX. I've only been with the company for 3 weeks. My background is new construction. I've built anywhere from 300 units to mini storages to apartment complexes. Before that, I was an underwater welder and been in construction for about 15 years.
Awesome. I love the underwater welder. So PDX as in Portland?
Yes, sir.
All right, wonderful. Thanks for being here. And then I show, is it George? Or do you go by Jorge? Not there? How about Lucia?
I'm here. I am new to reconstruction, but not new to the claims process. I did personal injury with an attorney's firm for about 12 years. But I am new to reconstruction, and I my territories is New Mexico and Chico.
Perfect. Almost went to Chico school. And then I show, is it, let's see, I believe it's Margarita. No, we've done Margarita. You've spoken. Is it Mariella?
Yeah,
Templeton?
this is Mariela. I am a project manager for Durango, working along with Mike Ponder, and for Grand Junction, working with Christopher. I do not have that much experience in construction, but I'm learning a lot.
Okay, great. And is there anybody else that I've missed? All right. We're going to, oh, Michael? Ponder, did I miss you earlier?
Oh, you guys got me.
Okay,
You missed
wonderful.
Mike Dandino. Is he on the line?
Yes, I see him on here.
Yeah, I'm in the Denver market, recon superintendent on the west side of town, basically from I-25 up into the foothills. Been with this franchise, well, it was the original franchise, did business development and marketing, and now I've been running the reconstruction for the last 2 years.
Okay, wonderful. Thanks for being here. I appreciate it. All right, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to share my screen with everybody here. We're going to kind of do a little bit of a twist on this today. This is generally takes about 3 hours to go through. So I'm going to see if I can put do a quick run through here. So one thing I will share with you all is, for those of you who have construction background, and for those of you that don't, is whether you've got construction background or not, this is very different to be in the restoration industry versus ground up construction or doing industrial work and so forth. In the sense of where it's different is that, sorry, I'm trying to think and do 2 things here at the same time. And I'm missing my file here. Where it's different is that it's a whole different ballgame and animal to be working in the restoration industry. It really is. What you thought maybe worked before made sense in construction doesn't always make sense here. What is similar is how you go back with it. Where I do find where some people struggle is if you've done tenant finishes, TIs, new construction, they're coming into the restoration industry. It's sometimes difficult to grasp of just the methodologies in which we put things together because sometimes we do it backwards. But from there, my goal is to kind of walk you through today a little bit of what it looks like to work in the insurance industry, how to qualify estimates, a little bit of that sales skill side, because it sounds like some of you are based on the construction background, but it also sounds like, from what I understand, a lot of you are selling jobs, and you may not always be selling jobs. So as you first go into that and selling jobs, I would, always, one thing I've learned in sales is you got to get your foot in the door early. And you got to be able to create a forward relationship with the client. That's one of the biggest key things. And so I think that's just a huge importance in doing that. If you all want it, if you want to, I'll leave this up here on the screen. If you scan this QR code, it has my contact information on it. That is for you. I'm here as a resource for all of you. And I want you to be able to call me, and feel free to reach out to me anytime you'd like to, whether it's an estimating question, whether it's a strategy question, or whether it's an insurance question. You haven't ran into this insurance, or you're new to the restoration industry and how to do it. I want you to feel free to reach out to me. So if you want to go ahead and scan that, feel free. I'll leave it up there for a couple of seconds.
What are you wanting us to scan?
Can you see the QR code?
I cannot.
Are you guys able to see my screen?
Yeah, but it's just black screen.
Black.
Well, that doesn't
I
work.
don't see it either, buddy.
How about now?
No.
Okay, my apologies. Google Meet is new and different for me, so let me
Okay. Probably when cherry, you can choose the cherry to the entire screen. That will give you another.
try it again here. I apologize.
Are you using two screens?
Yeah, I run two large screens.
Yeah, so stop sharing, and then whenever you share again, you can share the entire screen so that I can take both of the screens for you.
There we go. Thank you. Can't share your screen. Something went wrong. I'll try it again here. Okay, still not letting me share a screen. Okay, how about now? Are you able to see? All right, well, we've got a bit of an issue here. It's not allowing me to share. I'm trying to share the window now. Something went wrong with your screen sharing. Try restarting your browser if the problem continues. Are you able to see what I'm sharing right now?
No.
No, sir.
No.
And I apologize for this.
It's okay. If you go, get out of the meeting and then get back in the same link.
Let me try that real quick. I'll be right back. My
All right.
apologies. Are you all able to hear me now?
Hear and see both.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can see you as well.
Fortunately, I cannot hear you now.
None of us have been talking. Can you hear us?
Can you hear me now? Good.
I'm seeing your screen now.
I don't know if you can hear us.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, now the loaded question. Can you see my screen now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great.
Okay,
So if you
there
want,
you go.
now you can see on this.
Yes, we can see that.
We'll get somewhere today. I'll leave it up there for about another 10 seconds. You just put your phone on that. You'll be able to scan out, download my contact information.
Nice, got it.
All right, I'm going to move on to the next one. Cruising through this quickly. Just to give you an example, these are some of the jobs I completed before in the past. Medical office building. This is a roof collapse for about a 400,000 square foot building. 60-unit apartment complex fire and then a strip mall fire. Fires always take in collapse take better pictures than water damage. These are some of the clients I've worked for in the past. So I've been fortunate enough to work for Walt Disney, Ericsson Living, Prologis, UMB Bank, CD Richard Ellis, Mattel, Wells Fargo, and so forth. I'm going to skip through some of these slides again, just because we're limited on time today. When you're walking jobs, this is what I would encourage. Is, there's a mantra within the Navy SEALs. It's slow is smooth, smooth is fast. And I stole this from the book called Extreme Ownership, if any of you have ever read it. When you're going through and you're scoping a job, and this is specifically speaking to scoping today, is I would highly encourage you to move slow. The most important thing when you're estimating a job and when you're scoping a job is not rushing through it. Because if you're missing line items when you're estimating, you're missing money and you're leaving it out on the table. And then you have to go back and either supplement it or you may be looking at having to eat the cost of it. So as you're moving forward and you're estimating jobs, again, my encouragement is figure out exactly how you're going to do everything. Do it the same way every single time. Don't be afraid to ask coworkers questions. Don't be afraid to reach out to me and ask me questions. I know, it's on this screen right now in this meeting, there's people from a wide range of, you're brand new to the industry. You've been in construction for 40 plus years. You know what you're doing. But the insurance industry, as I shared before, it's a different anomaly. It's a completely different animal than your standard construction. So don't ever be afraid to ask a question. One of the beautiful things about ServPro and our network is the number of the vast array of people that we have as part of the system to be able to support you. Whether that's a neighboring franchise, whether that's somebody on your team in another state, whether that's me at HQ, whether that's Steve at HQ, or if it's somebody else even with our commercial large loss division, because I think I heard somebody mention doing commercial large loss. So know that you have the resources here, and we are here for you. So again, figure out what works best for you. Have a strategy in going through it. And I'm going to ask this with a loaded question. Do you guys currently right now have a scope sheet or a requirement of how you're supposed to scope projects? Anybody?
Yes, we do. The
Yeah, we do.
superintendents do.
Okay. And are you guys utilizing that, or is it just there and not being utilized?
I would say it's a little bit of both, depending on the technical capacity of who's using it.
Okay. My encouragement would be is if Matt has out there, documentation, a methodology of scoping for you, I would encourage all of you to utilize it. The best thing that you can do for yourself as a team is to follow through the policies and procedures that are in place and do it to the full extent. If you don't know how to utilize a document, you don't know the proper scoping methodology and so forth, it never hurts to ask the question so that you understand. You're better to throw your hand up in the air and ask now and create a little humble pie there versus not knowing how to do it. So If Matt has it out there, it's available for you as a team. I would highly encourage you guys to be able to utilize it. And that's just going to make you stronger as a team. It's going to go ahead and also create habits for you so that you can go ahead and fly through that. It may be difficult when you begin to do it. But again, my encouragement is to be able to do it. When you're scoping and estimating jobs, and I can send this out to everybody as well if you want to shoot me an email with your contact information, or I can get it from Matt as well. But when you're scoping and estimating jobs, one thing that I've always learned in estimating jobs and scoping jobs is setting expectations with clients, right? Is you're always going to have communications about maybe doing certain things or not doing certain things. But the reality is, at the end of the day, if it doesn't exist in writing, it doesn't exist at all. That's like that with any aspect of work, right? If it's not documented, it doesn't exist. So here, and again, I'm gonna run through these real quick. These are intros and closings that I've used. I primarily put it as an intro in a paragraph form. I don't do it in numerical or bullet point form, but I do it at the front of the end of the estimate. And again, not saying to use these in every single job. There are some that you can use in every job. But things to think about outside the box is when you're estimating a job and scoping a job, what are the things that might nip you? What are the things that might come back to haunt you or bite you at the end of the job, right? Whether it be a artwork on a wall that's extremely expensive, or whether it be a certain type of, whether you're doing a whole house vacuum, you might have to detach and reset in the garage, or whether you're doing a large commercial loss or residential loss, and there's no way to cover the roof and so forth. It's really being able to set the expectations of what does the client expect from you? What do you expect from the client? And what are the things that might come back to haunt you that you just need to qualify and put out there? So, the one thing that we do every single day just about is we're doing drywall patches, right? And water damage. And we're trying to match existing finishes. So one thing I've always put out there is attempt to match existing finishes. If you're not able to match it, a supplement may be provided for additional scope. That way, if your drywall isn't perfect, and the reality is your drywall could be perfect based on the way that your drywall vendor does it, but based on lighting conditions, based on it being on a ceiling, based on whether you're using eggshell or semi-gloss or flat paint, it may come out different. And the way that I've explained it with everybody is when you do drywall, it's an art form. It's going to vary. So the other thing is I've always liked to qualify where the business hours. So if somebody hits you up to work after hours, you can say yes or no to that, or you can say yes, but it's going to cost X dollars. Again, it gives yourself some flexibility, and it just goes ahead and sets expectations. I've always qualified it as well as if you run into additional areas that run into mold, or you have to do some asbestos testing, that's qualified. Estimates include those items only within the body. Should additional items be reflected on plans or other notations other than the body of the estimate, they are specifically excluded unless noted. Something similar to this is nice to put out there. Simply that qualifies if you've had a conversation with an adjuster, with an owner, it's not in the estimate, it doesn't exist. Yes, you can do it, but there will be a charge for it. Prices exclude engineering, architectural drawings, or permits and fees. A lot of water damage, the reality is we put it back together without pulling permits on water damage is more than likely. And if you happen to run into a job where all of a sudden now you're having to pull a permit, this allows you to be able to go back and charge for it. All cleaning, generally you're going to be done and completed on the restoration side, the mid side. But if you're able or needing to do cleaning on the construction side, this is qualifying. If you're not able to clean grout from smoke damage or whatever it may be, then you can go ahead and replace the grout or replace the tile. This line item here saved me about $60,000 in Colorado. Had two jobs side by side. They were top plate up fires, and we went to demo the roof. We looked at the weather. The weather was clear, and sure enough, it was Colorado. 3 days later, we had a thunderstorm come through. The roof was off both homes, and we had partial finishes still within the house of both homes, and it destroyed the rest of the house. And we had to go ahead and demo the rest of the house. Had I not had this in here, one of the adjusters was really difficult to work with, and more than likely he was going to try and squeeze me to go ahead and cover those costs, and this covered my tail and saved me quite a bit of money. Other things, again, is landscaping. So again, the intention of sharing this with you is think about what are the things that could qualify, that could nip you at the end of the job or during a job, and also just setting expectations with a client. General conditions. Does anybody apply general conditions to your scopes or your estimates currently right now? Does anybody know what general conditions are?
Yeah, I was gonna say a lot of the folks probably don't understand general conditions. So why don't you go ahead and
All right,
explain it?
perfect.
Being from the commercial world, you and I know it pretty heavily.
And that's kind of what I was hoping would happen. So general conditions are going to be, and I'm speaking specifically to the industry, the restoration industry, not the new construction and ground up, but temporary toilets. Do you guys put temporary toilets in every single job?
On big jobs we do. Nothing takes about a day or two.
Okay, so if a job takes 2 days, what happens though when the guys have to use the restroom?
They got to go to on their lunch break or their nearest gas station.
Okay, so they can't wait till to their lunch break, so they got to go to the nearest gas station. How long does that take them to do that?
20 minutes, I'd say. It's only happened once. Typically, they're in and out.
So here's my encouragement: is I would encourage putting temporary toilets on jobs. If you've got a crew that's going to be out there 8 hours, I think owe it to them to have a restroom available for them to use. My encouragement is never to have, specifically on residential jobs, commercial jobs, if they have janitorial services and so forth, are different. But I would never encourage using a residential restroom at somebody's home. If you are having guys leave the job, and if you're like me, I drink water like crazy all day long. I couldn't make it to lunch. And the last thing you want is somebody using the facilities outside around a house and getting caught. That's happened before. I've seen it. If they're leaving the job site to go to the gas station, go to McDonald's, go to Home Depot and so forth, yes, it could be 20 minutes or it could be 40 minutes. And so if you're performing the work in house, what you're doing is you are losing on productivity and you are actually having margin erosion by doing that. If you are subbing it out, your sub is losing out on productivity and they're going to have margin erosion. And what they may end up doing down the road is going to head and figuring that cost back into your jobs in these small jobs. And it ends up costing you money. And it's a lot easier, I think, to ask for a temp toilet to drop on a job site rather than putting extra hours and putting an F9 note in there for somebody to go use the restroom. And the reality is, depending on where they're working at, right? If they're working out in Larkspur in Colorado, or if you're working out of Durango and you're working out further out in the mountains, again, you may be able to get away with, somebody using the outside facilities. But again, my encouragement would be is avoid it. And by putting it in there, you're allowing your team to be more efficient. And if you're working within the city and they got to go around the corner, they still got to pack up their tools and so forth, potentially pack up their truck or pack up their job trailer and so forth. So my encouragement is always put a temporary toilet on a job site. General conditions in general, they're covering things that are not specific to the rooms. They're covering things that are all encompassing to the job. So that could include temporary toilets, dumpsters, snorkel lifts, scaffolding, cranes, temporary power, general progressive cleaning. I'll touch base on that a little bit more. Permits and fees, HOA submittal fees, engineering, architectural fees, supervision, right? Supervision is always a sensitive subject. Storage containers, materials, temporary office, safety, fire extinguishers, and so forth. And I'm not saying that you put these on every single job or that you'll get them on every single job. But the reality is, if you're not putting these on a job, there's a good chance at some point you're going to be utilizing these. So, when I talk about dumpsters, I qualify putting dumpsters on just about every job or a small dumpster instead of putting up a pickup charge. If you can put a dumpster on a job and do an F9 note and qualify it of, you're putting a dumpster out there and you put an F9 note and say maybe substituted with a dump trailer and or multiple pickup loads, you're allowing yourself flexibility to not have to put a dumpster out there, but you're getting paid more money. If you are going ahead and you're working on a higher area and you're not sure whether or not your vendor is going to use ladder jacks or scaffold or whatever it is they may be using, I would encourage going ahead and putting scaffold on the job. When you put scaffold on the job, and what you'll notice here is, when I go ahead and put scaffold on a job, they have it on here that you get paid to set it up and to take it down. You get paid by the section and you get paid by the day, the month, or the week. If I'm doing it for 4 weeks, I'm not going to put it in there for a month. I'm going to put it in there for 4 weeks because it's going to make me more money. If I'm putting it in there for a day, I'm probably going to say, you know what, we're going to put a minimum charge of a week for scaffold to be out there. But these are areas, one is it helps increase the bottom line for you. It creates more opportunity for you to have more monies within the job so that you can, one, hopefully get better vendors if need be, have more money to be able to perform at a higher rate or capacity, or to be able to increase your bottom line and your margin. So that's why I encourage that, that slow, smooth as fast methodology of going through the line items with an Xactimate to make sure that you have and need what's there. So in an overall, that's what general conditions are. I always like to put general conditions at a room at the very top of my estimate. And I go ahead and I always apply a temporary toilet. I apply a dumpster, whether that's a small 3-yard or it's a 40-yard. I put an F9 note to qualify it. I also put in a line item for plywood if I'm using a dumpster. Because when you drop a dumpster, you put it in a driveway, you want to be able to protect the driveway, not have it damage the driveway. And I'm putting in plywood, I'm taking it and I'm sending it back to the shop when the job's done. I'm bringing it back out to the job, but I'm charging it to the job every single time. Because whether you're using new plywood or using old plywood, you got the labor and the cost to bring it out there, and you have the storage to be able to store it if you're storing it. Temporary power obviously is not on every job. I do try to put this on every job, general progressive cleaning. If you look within line items of Xactimate, and this is an area that you have to do some give and take. And as I share this today, this is my lens and how I've estimated the past in restoration. It doesn't mean that you're going to get these on every single job, but I would definitely encourage trying to get these where you can and where it makes sense. But the reality is as you build jobs and you do jobs, general progressive cleaning, I try to apply to every single job. When you look at within the line items of Xactimate and you actually click on the detail, and while we're doing this in the background, I'm going to pull up Xactimate. But when you click on Xactimate and you look at the line items and detail within it, for the most part, the line items do not include cleanup. They don't. I actually looked at it just the other day with another franchise. The only one that we found at it is that it doesn't include cleanup is if you're filling holes for drywall. It actually does include cleanup in there. But when we were looking at, 1/2 inch or 5/8 inch drywall, it doesn't include it. So what I would encourage is putting general progressive cleaning within the estimates themselves, because what that's going to allow is you to have a cleaner job as you go through it. Whether you're subbing the cleaning out, whether you're having the crews clean it up, or you're going to send your own crew out there to clean it up, or if you're going to push a broom yourself, at least what you're doing is you're minimally getting covered the cost to make sure that you have a clean job site. If you're a PM or a super and you're running a broom through the job, it's still taking you time to do it. And what that may end up helping you do is cover for the cost for your time to supervise that job. Because the reality is that in every job that we do and every job we perform, we have supervision allocated to that job, whether we get paid for it or whether we don't. And so the way that I look at it is, when I'm writing an estimate, I'm looking at robbing Peter to pay Paul on how do I be able to go ahead and cover the cost of my supervision or other line items where I'm not making the monies. Because the reality is, at the end of the day, is Xactimate is like PowerPoint, right? Just like we're doing today. It's a presentation tool. It's not a be-all, end-all. And not always the pricing isn't always right. Some areas you'll make money, some areas you lose money. And at the end of the day, what I care about when I budget a job is I'm making money at the bottom end at the end of the day. I encourage you, when you're writing estimates and when you're scoping and going into them, and you click in with an estimate item, I highly encourage you to start taking the time to click in within the detail of the estimate item itself. So for instance, if I'm looking at this estimate right now and I'm going through and I'm looking at drywall, let me just actually try it. Let me just type drywall 1/2 inch. And I'm clicking on this right now. And when you click this and open this, you click for details and click preview. Or you don't have to click preview. I just like it again for specifically today. It's going to bring it in should be bringing it up in a PDF form. Is that what this is going to do is this is going to show you what is included in drywall. And when you go in here and look at this drywall feature here, as far as this line item, and nowhere in here does it say clean. It doesn't have cleaning in here. And so when I've used this in the past, I have no problem printing this out and giving it to an adjuster and saying, you know what, this is why I put general progressive cleaning, is that it does not have cleaning within the actual description or allocated to be able to clean within the line item. And I need to be able to provide a clean job site. Not only is it I need to do it for the customer, I need to do it for safety as well. And when you're looking at drywall specifically, one thing I would encourage when you're working on jobs and doing it is to go ahead, and I didn't put it in here, but put up barriers. And I wouldn't call them containments, because when you put up a zip pole with a plastic, it's not a containment unless you have it taped off and stapled off and glued off and under negative pressure. I would qualify it as a barrier. But with Xactimate, you can use line items such as putting in zip holes, the plastic. I would encourage putting air scrubbers. If you've got an elderly couple or kids there, I would put in air scrubbers. If you're working in the back corner of a house, right, but you're walking through the front door, I would put in there to run carpet mask or floor protection if it's wood floors, because at the end of the day, you're going to have to do something. And if you don't do something, there's a good chance that you may damage the floor, and now you're going to end up paying for it, or going to impound it, clean it, and so forth. So again, it's about being as detailed as you possibly can when you're writing the estimates and so forth. You know, I haven't seen specifically your guys' scope sheet, but we do have a scope sheet online on our construction services department. So if you can definitely run this by Matt. I don't want to say deter you from what you're currently looking at right now, but if you go to servpronet.com and you go ahead and click on operating systems and support at the very top and click on construction over here under key result areas, this is going to go ahead and take you to our construction page here. And under this construction page, there's lots and lots of resources for y'all. But it's going to have, and we've changed it, so I don't know quite where it is today. I think it might even be under construction forms, but it's going to have in here scope sheets for you so that you can go ahead and you can bring up scope sheets. It has material selection sheets and so forth. So I would highly encourage checking out our website, seeing what's there. Again, I'm going through kind of on the elevator pitch today because we're limited on time. Schedules. As you're scoping a job, I would encourage you to think about a schedule or put together a preliminary schedule when scoping jobs. The reason I do this is why. Does anybody have an answer why it's good to schedule your job and a prelim schedule in the front end of a job before you even contract? Anybody?
Well, you're right there walking the job in person, so it's a good idea. It just clicked to me when you said it, and it's fresh in your mind.
Okay, that's one reason. What happens when you give a contract to a client or you give them the estimate? What's one of the first questions that comes out of their mouth?
What's the timeline?
Yep, when are you going to be done? So my encouragement, whether it's a small job or a large job, is to put together a prelim schedule. You know, this right here. Do you guys have a scheduling platform that you're using currently right now?
Nope.
Okay. I would connect with Matt. I would encourage you guys as a team to get together to figure out how are you guys going to schedule jobs. Scheduling jobs, this is done through what's called Smart Sheets. You know, there's Microsoft Project out there. You guys have Work Center. I don't know if I'd say Work Center is the greatest to schedule out of. You know, back in the day when I was doing this and I started my own business and I didn't want to spend a lot of money, I simply did it on Excel. Something's better than nothing, right? If you don't have anything right now, I would encourage doing something as minimal as Excel. Smart Sheets, you can get it free for 30 days. Maybe try and play with that to see if that's an option for you guys. But
we have a near-term schedule that a form that's been out there that nobody uses. It's good for 3 weeks. It's good for the short jobs. The bigger jobs, you know, I've done Microsoft Project, Timberline, and all that mess.
Yep.
So
I would encourage you. I mean, one of the things about being a professional construction company is to be able to schedule. It's good for you. It's good for your client. It's good for your subs. And it allows you to be able to figure out when's the start date, when's the stop date, because you have to create accountability with yourselves. And I think there also needs to be accountability with your subs as well. You know, so when you're going out and doing a prelim job on a schedule, I think it's good for you to put in there going, okay, I got the crew out there, and this helps you with your budget as well. I've got a crew out there for, you know, 2 guys for 1 day. Okay, great. That's a day. You know, I'm doing painting, I'm doing carpentry, whatever it is. And so you figure out, okay, it helps you with your budget and it helps you answer that question from your client. If you're doing larger jobs, I'd encourage you to run through your subs and get pricing. But I'd also ask the sub, what is your lead time? Are you 2 weeks out? Are you 4 weeks out? Are you 6 weeks out? Are you 8 weeks out? How long is it going to take you to do the rough? How long is it going to take you to do the finish? And back into your schedule based on the feedback they gave you, because then that creates accountability with them because they provided you the schedule. You know, there's a couple different methodologies on doing scoping. One is there's the top-down method. There's the bottom-up method. That's the insurance way of doing things, right? You're doing floor to ceiling or ceiling to floor. My background is construction. The top-down or bottom-up method doesn't make sense to me. When I scope based on how do you build it, right? I'm doing excavation first. I'm doing my undergrounds first. I'm doing my foundation first. And I'm going into framing, right? I'm doing my floor system. Then I'm running my, waste lines and everything under my crawl space for my floor or basement, depending on where you're at in the country. I would encourage you, always scope similar. but do what works best for you. If you have an insurance company that says I need it to be the bottom up, then you can make your estimate the bottom up when you're done doing your estimate and present it the way that they want it. But if you're somebody who your background is construction, go through and scope that job based on how you build it. That's how I scope. And then go through it and do it that way. We're going to skip through large loss today. Not going to go ahead and address that. I want to get to I want to touch this. Utilization of line items outside the obvious. This is what I talked about earlier, right? Is, do you have a high ceiling? In Xactimate, there's a high ceiling. When you go into Xactimate and you work, and especially if you're new, here's what I would encourage you to do. Is, if you're working on drywall, I would encourage you not just to try half-inch drywall, or, you can use this reference search up here, which is great. If you look at, you look at a bedroom, you can click on here and say wall finishes, right? And it's going to bring up various wall finishes and so forth, right? Whether it's drywall, painting, plaster, and so forth. If you haven't used these, they're great. But one thing I also encourage you to do is to go through and do the drop-down arrow here. So you type in drywall and do the drop-down arrow here. And you have all these various line items for drywall. I would encourage just scanning through this and seeing what's out there. This is where you actually begin to make the money, and this is where you begin to get really accurate scopes. Now, when I say that as well, one thing that I encourage people to do, and it's not on this slideshow, is when you estimate a job with an insurance company, you may use line items that are outside the box. And you may end up not utilizing those line items. So for instance, I mentioned earlier about a whole house vacuum. I had a franchise who had a whole house vacuum in Southern California. They put a detach and reset. Drywaller was able to come out there, do the drywall without detaching the whole house vacuum. It took them some extra time, but it saved them time and money. He had to give the money back for the whole house vacuum back to the client. If he had in there, I like to put this in my estimates. In fact, I had it in my contracts. Scope it. The methodology in which we perform the work may differ from that reflected in the estimate. If the methodology from the estimate varies, or the methodology construction varies from within the estimate, items will not be credited back. Essentially, what I'm saying there is, if I put in the detach and reset a whole house vacuum as part of the loss, I'm able to figure out a different way to do it. Or I put in there a dumpster load, and now I picked it up with a dump trailer, multiple loads, or whatever it may be. I'm not crediting those line items back to them because I was able to do a different way of doing it. The methodology changed. I still was able to get the job completed. I'm not crediting it back to them. So being able to utilize those line items to your benefit is really going to help you. And I would encourage you looking at line items to see, okay, if you put in line items based on a lineal foot patch or versus a square foot and look at blending, there's probably 3 different ways to put it in Xactimate on a plate line cut, right? Or on a flood cut, depending on what part of the country you're from. But look at the line items to see what benefits you the most, because you may be able to put the line items a different way to be able to make more money. So that would be my encouragement when learning and working with Xactimate is go through and look at the various line items that are in here and see what's out there. Another example I have is right here. When you look at, you're going in and let's say you got to do a new footer or you got to tie into concrete, right? Right here, concrete core drilling, 1 inch diameter by 1 inch deep. Has anybody tapped in or dialed into concrete 1 inch deep? Doesn't happen. Usually you're doing what, 4 to 6 inches? Am I correct on that? So you would take this line item here and put this in by 4 times for each hole. And then multiply that by however many holes, whether you're 16 on center, 24 on center, or 12 on center, whatever your on center is. And that's what you plug in there. So versus getting, and some people never even would use this line item. They simply would put concrete by the square foot and walk away and think it's good. But the reality is, if you look at the description of concrete by the square foot, it doesn't have doweling into the concrete. And this is why I'm saying get into the weeds with Xactimate. If we're being asked to use it, go ahead and utilize it to its maximum capacity. And that's being able to learn to understand of what is within the line item, what's within the description, and how do you maximize it. I'm going to jump in because we had it on the thing here for budgeting. Who uses budgeting when they're doing estimating? Who budgets on the front end? Anybody? Please tell me somebody is.
It's preached every day. Budget. Everybody's got to create a budget.
I can't see you. Is that Matt?
I'm back.
All right.
I'm back.
I'm 100% with Matt there. If you are not budgeting a job on the front end, in my personal opinion, you're setting yourself up for failure.
They're probably budgeting, but not to the extent they need to, and they may be budgeting and not realize they're doing it. I mean,
Okay.
they're pricing out the subs, getting the numbers, and comparing it to the budget.
Yeah.
What
but
I'm going
not.
to do, I'm
Go
going
ahead.
to go ahead and share with you. This is a basic spreadsheet. So, I mean, obviously, if you get into using, if you guys ever get into using Dash or a different platform, it's going to be more intricate than what I'm showing you right now. But I would encourage you all, if you're not budgeting, take the spreadsheet that I'm sharing with you right now, or take another version of your own and run a budget. I would encourage you all, to budget on every single job you're doing. And when you're using Xactimate and you're budgeting jobs, the one thing that I would encourage, you got your run-of-the-mill water damage, right? I would encourage you going into Xactimate and plugging in a draft estimate, lineal foot drywall patch, drywall by the square foot, 3-inch base, 4-inch base, 6-inch base, installing carpet by, how much per yard or per square foot, right? And then creating essentially a scope that you send out to your vendors. You put in there detaching and resetting a toilet, reset a kitchen sink, reset a kitchen faucet, reset a garbage disposal, reset an appliance. The stuff that you guys are doing 80 to 90% of the time, I would put in an estimate. Then I would go ahead and print that out as scope only. And then I'd filter that based on the trade. And I would send it to plumber, here's this. Can you give me a price in every single line item here? I would create a spreadsheet with a price list of what your costs are, so that when you're doing program work or you're doing small jobs that it doesn't make sense to run your plumber out there, it doesn't make sense to make a phone call, you've already got a price list. And I would update it once a quarter. And that way you can budget your jobs in the front end. But if you go to our construction homepage, actually I got too far ahead of myself here. If you go to our construction homepage here, right in the middle here is a budget tool. I created this tool. You don't have to use it. You can say it's junk. I like it. It's simplistic. It's the 40,000 foot level. If you go down here and you click on this, you can download it. The way that this is designed is that you can actually import from Xactimate, from the recap by category, and populate this budget. And the way that I have it is right now, you got to spend $20 a month to be able to do this through Adobe, because you got to have an Adobe that allows you to copy with formatting. However, Tia here gives you a walk around. So when you go to this spreadsheet and you scroll down here, you can actually click on her link here, and she gave a shortcut of how to do this. There's a few more steps, but how to pull it in without having to pay the $20 a month for Adobe, or if you don't have Adobe. I'm going to show you how to utilize this real quick and kind of run through it. But to me, when you're scoping and doing construction, this is an absolute must. And I'm going to ask you, those of you who have done construction, one of you said 40 years on this call. Have you done a multi-million-dollar job without a budget before?
No, not at all. I've done $50 million jobs, and $5,000 jobs. I always had a budget.
Always have a budget. So that's the key. The biggest key, obviously scope properly. You can have a budget and your scope is junk, you're not going to make money. The next big step in making money and to make sure you're doing things right is the budget. And so what this budget does here is this has every category from Xactimate in here. Every category is in here. And what it does is under estimate totals here, it's going to go ahead and populate what the retail value is, what's in your estimate before overhead and profit. It's essentially taking your recap by category and it's plugging it into here. So I'm going to search real quick in my downloads here. I think I've got one. Yeah, I think this is one right here we can utilize. So all you got to do is go in, and I'm not going to walk you through how to print a recap by category. I'm hoping that you guys know how to do it. If you don't, give me a call back. I'll happy to walk you through it.
We
All
can
you have
get it. Don't worry.
All you have to do is come in here and left click at the top and highlight all this right here. Right click, copy with formatting. Go back to that budget spreadsheet I showed you. Now this is the spreadsheet, right? And take note, The second tab here has directions. This will walk you through on how to do a recap, print a recap by category, and walk you through this entire budget sheet. All you do is go to the bottom here, where it says description here at the bottom, and hit Control V to paste it in there. And now what it did is it put everything up top. And I'm not a fan of this, and you guys may do this, and that's fine if it works for you. But what I've done, and because a lot of servpros do this, is I put this to default 70% here for a budget. So you're giving your trade. So if you got $306 in here, your cost, what you're projecting that it's going to cost you to do this job is $214. That's what you got for your cabinet vendor to do this work. And what this is doing at 70% is, and something's off here. Oh, this job doesn't have permits, it doesn't have overhead and profit on it. That's a blunder. Let me grab a different one.
While you're pulling that up, I'll fill the space. Oftentimes we have to give the customers clarity on the budget per square foot for flooring or what have you. Do you do the same thing when it's broken out by material and separated by labor?
You can't unfortunately use this spreadsheet for that, but what I like to do on that is I like to actually create a separate spreadsheet, which is called a material allowance sheet. And I bring up the material allowances for each one of those.
Right.
And so I can argue both ways to do this. You know, you can do the way of where you don't give it to them on the front end, you get the contract signed. And then when it comes to that time, you go, okay, here's your material allowances for all this stuff. Where you can run into a pickle with that is they can argue it, right? It's not part of your contract. And they may say, well, you've got, $20 a yard in your estimate for that. Why can't I have $20 a yard in the estimate for that? Well, because, ma'am, that includes both the material and the install. What's nice about doing it on the front end is setting the expectations. Is if you do it on the front end, it's going to go ahead and on the front end by doing it is you can dictate, here's how much you have per square yard or per square foot to buy the carpet. And by doing that, then if they want to go shop on their own, they can shop on their own. They want to go buy cheap carpet at Home Depot or private label carpet at Home Depot, they can go do that. Or what you can do is you can send them to your carpet vendor, right? And they can go ahead and look at your carpet vendor, or you can bring out samples. I always prefer to bring out samples to a client. The best way for me to control cost on a job, especially with flooring, is to bring the samples to the client. Because if you send them to the flooring showroom, right, what are they going to do? They're going to go to the nicest, most expensive stuff. And now they're trying to wheel and deal. Where if you can bring them samples, you can control what your budget is, right? So I always encourage, bring them a couple, sample boards of carpet that are within the budget range. And you figure out ahead of time, hey, this is the materials per square foot. And by doing that, you're setting the expectations. And so if they decide, you know what, I want nicer carpet, ma'am, not a problem. Here's the net additional cost for that. That's how I approach it. So I just copied and pasted this one in. This is the larger estimate, but you can see this one has the overhead and profit in it, and it puts the margin at 43%. And that's doing this based off of a 70% here. This is your line item, right? This is what you have in there for that line item. But here's the thing, if you're running it in-house, and again, I always encourage, especially in larger jobs, is to go get your vendors to go out there and give you a price. So if you're getting a demo price, right, from a demo contractor in Denver, and your demo contractor comes in at $5,500, that's $2,000 less. And this is the other reason I don't like just giving percentages. And I just talked to a franchise who just did this the other day. I was coaching them on how to negotiate. The typical franchise would I go out there and give them 70%. They're going to go, hey, I got $7,500 for this. Can you do this job? But if you ask for a bid from them and they can do it for $5,500, guess what? You just made another $2,000.
That's a good point. I'll be honest, Shane,
Sure,
we have about 1 minute, and then we actually have another guest joining my team meeting from Home Depot. But you bring up a great point, because I often tell the team, give them a budget, don't get a bid, because it may come in higher, but if it comes in lower, so there's a good point, a good lesson to be learned in there.
And I would take that $2,000 and I put it down on your contingency.
Right.
So if you need that for something else later, you keep your margin at the same and you got a contingency.
Yeah.
You can use formulas on the side to figure out what your labor material is as well. So you can use this if you're doing it on the simplistic side as well, and then you can override these. So I know we're short on time here. I apologize for the technical issues. Matt, we had some issues with sharing my screen and so forth in the front end. So I apologize for that. But again, we can schedule this ahead of time. I hope that the time we were able to be productive here was useful for you all. Again, please feel free to reach out to me anytime with any questions. We're here to support you.
Thank you so much, Shane. We really appreciate it.
Take care.
Have a great
Thank you.
rest of your day.